Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Coming to you today from sunny Minneapolis. It's been a crazy week for us here. We had a gigantic snowstorm and then it rained basically all day yesterday. So it's been pretty crazy. But thanks for taking the time. Thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you guys today here for our Workday Adaptive webinar. I'm just going to take a couple minutes and just do a quick introduction of eCapital so you know our team and who we are and what we're focused on. But eCapital, our main goal is to help customers, our clients, really transform themselves and specifically their finance departments and on this thing called digital transformation. So people have heard a lot of that stuff. And when we think about digital transformation, what we're really talking about is as data really has exploded that our customers have access to, as they've started to take advantage of new technologies, specifically cloud-based technologies, and have really worked to really transform themselves in the way they serve their customers, but all the other business areas of a customer, and they've really tried to expand the ability of finance to really drive business awareness at their companies. That's really what eCapital is focused on, is really helping with that. And when we think about eCapital, we kind of in our offerings, we kind of divide that up into three areas on the screen here. And the first one we'll be talking the majority of today about is our performance management area, and really driving and helping customers with planning, budgeting, forecasting, really the way they model and think about their business, whether that's revenue or workforce or cost and expense management. So we'll be talking a lot about that today and really show you some ways that you can better think about and better manage your business. And we think about analytics, we kind of think about that across different areas. And traditionally, a lot of customers have thought about analytics from a BI perspective, reports and dashboards and that type of thing. And those are still very, very important things that a lot of finance teams are really focused on. But what we really want to do is kind of bring that to the next level and really help customers with self-service analytics, how to get the data into the hands of their users, so they can do their own analysis and their own self-service reports and dashboards, and then even level that up a little bit more with things like automation and RPA, the automation of manual processes, or business data science, and the way that we can use computers to help do our work, and some of those the algorithms, and put those in place. Something we're seeing a lot of our finance teams doing are things like predictive analytics, where they're actually loading in SKU level information into the platform and allowing the tools to actually do some of their forecasts for them, or at least give them a baseline that they can react to. And then the third area is, we hire a lot of subject matter experts, whether that's industry-wise, people that are really focused in certain verticals, or people that are specialists in certain technologies. And we can come in and help do things like software selection type processes, help you really think about different ways to your finance team can engage across the business. And so we have our advisory and consulting services as well. And finally, as we kind of think about kind of that evolution of finance, we really think about our offerings across this ecosystem. And on the left side of your screen, the number of data sources that are available to a traditional person at a company have exploded. Whether that's your GL, whether it's coming from an ERP, right, an actual a system of record, your CRM systems, different POS areas. People now have created things like cloud-based data lakes. Most people have hybrid type environments where some of their data is on premise, some of it's in the cloud. And what our goal really is to make sure that you can leverage all that information, pull it together into a place that it can be easily diagnosed and pulled into a specific area, so that everyone can get access to it. And whether that's via some reporting type applications, whether it's a planning tool like we're talking about today with Workday Adaptive, whether people need close and consolidation type applications, our goal is to help customers better access that information. And I think up until recently, the data part of this has been a big challenge for people, and it's required potentially a lot of IT intervention, or they've had to wait around for that information. And our goal is to really enable and escalate that process to make it even faster for customers. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how you can better leverage some of these best in breed tools to really get to market quickly and get the information that you're looking for to help manage your businesses better. So welcome. Thank you guys. That was a big, long introduction, but thank you guys for coming today. I'm excited to hear what the team has to say.
Perfect. I'll take it from there. So my name is Steve Adam. I am an adaptive rep here at eCapital Advisors. Really excited for everyone to be here today. I will make my portion as brief as possible because I know everyone's here to see the tool, but I did want to just highlight part of adaptive and eCapital and how we bring a great solid partnership to the table. So one of the questions that we get today is, where do we get agility in today's world? So one of the biggest things about adaptive that I always just want to highlight, and they swear by it, is the 3 C's, right? We're talking about a collaborative tool, a continuous tool, and a comprehensive tool. So what does that mean to you? It means that we have everyone in the organization working together with one source of the truth. So we can talk about sales and financial planning and HR planning, marketing planning, things along those lines, but it doesn't matter if it's not easy to do. So one of the biggest things with adaptive is it is one of the top rated or the top rated tool in terms of ease of use. So this tool is not designed for the IT people to say, hey, I need you to build this report out, or I need you to go create these dashboards. I need the information and data at my fingertips. This is designed for the Office of Finance and business users, so that when we are having different leaders within your organization need to go in and put in a budget, or just drill down to, hey, where did this number come from? They have the ability to do that. It is a very powerful modeling engine. So what they have put together is a tool that within a click and a refresh, you're seeing that data come in. You're able to create those new scenarios or those different versions and make those quick changes and see where that would impact your bottom line or your top line. And it's comprehensive, right? So this is a tool where you have the ability to constantly make changes to see what impacts that have and reevaluate what you're doing. So a fantastic tool. I'm really excited for you to be here. Part of the reason why, I don't know if you are familiar with the history, but Workday over about 2 years ago had acquired the adaptive planning tool. Now what they bring to the table is a $4.4 billion organization that reinvests 30% of their revenue back into the tools. So what does that mean for you? It means you're getting the latest and greatest. Most of that money that you see on that revenue side is bigger than most organizations put together or even earn as their own planning solution. Number 1 in Fortune Future 50. Number 2 in world's most innovative company. So what has that meant for us as what do we get out of it? You get high user ratings, you get best of breed solution in reporting, you get 6,200 plus customers. And I know today we have a breadth of audience, right? In all different industries, but just to kind of paint the picture, we're at over 6,200 customers using the adaptive planning tool, with about 90% of that coming from the 1 to 3,000 employee mark. 50%, right, experiences rapid growth. How do we become this mid-market? We're outgrowing Excel. And so when you partner that with eCapital Advisors, I know Matt touched on this, but over 20 years of experience, our passion is in finance and data and making your lives easier. We help you make data-driven decisions. We have an advisory service as well. And one of the things I love to highlight is just over the last 2 years alone, we've had over 50 implementations. So now is just where I like to pivot, show you just the different industries. Again, I know we have a very diverse group here today. So in terms of your manufacturing, your banking and your finance, your nonprofits, things along those lines, that's where we come in and make you successful. So as we're going through the demo today, I want you to just make sure that you see the flexibilities, because we're just going to scratch the surface, especially when we talk about revenue planning. But know that it is diverse enough where a Duluth trading company has the ability to go plan for their stores and their supply the same way that a Gunlock Bun Shoe winery does, right? So I just wanted to highlight that. And lastly, we're just going to be talking about revenue planning, some expense planning, and workforce planning. But think of where this goes beyond that, right? We have organizations. I just actually got a text from one of our customers, Cosmos, who's down in St. Louis, and they were like, hey, this is great where we're at, but let's take it to the next level. Let's get into demand planning and sales planning. So where our quick wins tend to be, right, is our base financials, our workforce planning, and CapEx. But this tool gives you the agility to design this solution exactly how you need it to be and plan for that future growth. So before I pass it over, I do just want to, I know I touched on this. We'll give you an introduction to the adaptive platform. We'll go through some scenario planning. We'll spin up, make some changes in revenue planning, expense planning, and workforce planning, and then pivot and just highlight some of the reportings where you're going to see that quick win in the web reporting, which is great for variance reporting, and then Office Connect, which is where you'll streamline your board decks, your month-end close, your quarter close, and things along those lines. So as I pass it over to Hosai, I just want to let everyone know, Safe Harbor, everything you'll be seeing in today's solution is their live products. And so there won't be anything that is or is not available in the tool today. Now, without further ado, if there are questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. If they're relevant, we'll make sure to tackle them right away. We are also joined by Mitch Dorhat on our team, who is one of our lead developers, so that we can make sure to answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. I have taken over the share and looks like you can all see my screen. Just a quick introduction on myself. I've joined eCapital Advisors a little over a year and a half ago, but prior to coming to the firm, I actually spent about a decade in a variety of FP&A roles. I've been in most of your shoes, I would say, done lots of budgeting, forecasting, and planning, have also used adaptive insights prior to the Workday acquisition in one of my previous analyst roles. But happy to be here, share the solution with you, help you all on the phone here, envision how you can take your current existing processes out of wherever you're doing the planning, if it's mostly Excel, into a solution like Workday Adaptive Planning. So with that, I will get started. And for those of you on the call who have not seen adaptive planning, I will take the first minute and a half or so, just get you acclimated to the screen that you're looking at, so you know where I'm kind of pivoting and navigating. Then we'll take a deep dive into our dashboarding and then follow our agenda from there on. So with that, it is 100% cloud-based. You can really log in from anywhere on the web. If you're out and about and you choose to log in from your mobile device, you absolutely can do that. It will automatically resize the size of screen that you're using, supported on any browser you may be using. Right now in the top right-hand corner here, we're logged in as Patrick O'Brien, Director of FP&A, and we are the only user at this point in time. And we are also that admin user. Your adaptive experience really differs if you're logged in as an admin user versus an end user or a contributor based on your security settings. So you can have your additional users in the system alongside you while you're working in here. Next to Patrick's picture, I always like to highlight this little question mark. It is your built-in training system, comes with a solution. Use it during implementation, post-implementation. I like to think of it as your quick Google search with guided click options, where you can really search for anything you may be looking to get a quick refresher on, and you'll be provided with lots of helpful short articles and videos. Next to the question mark is your version dropdown available, or scenarios, as you're spinning up your what ifs, doing your acquisition type scenarios, or any what if type of planning, or any of your rolling forecasts. You can easily toggle between them right here in the top right hand corner. Unlimited number of those scenarios versions, no impact to the performance of your model. On your left hand side under the W Workday icon, quick highlight here, I won't walk through every single item on here, is that we're looking at a comprehensive list of items available to us because we're logged in as that admin user. We do have access to processes and workflow. This is where an admin user can go in behind the scenes, create a unique process for a budget inputter, to request them to come into the solution and update and input their forecast or budget. Then formulas, modeling, administration, and integration, these last four here kind of just make up the backdoor to the structure of your model. So with that, let's take a quick deep dive here into your data visuals. So what you see on the screen here are just a handful of KPIs metrics I have created based on data that I have brought into the system. These are just KPIs that are important to me, but think of these individual widgets that you see as your KPIs that you're tracking today, or perhaps there are KPIs you want to track in the future. Once you bring in that data, be it your GL type of data, your sales data, your customer data, you can create those widgets around that data in the system very easily. Just to kind of paint the picture and give you a taste of the art of the possible, I have a donut chart, I have a gross margin gauge here, I have my EBITDA, traditional line column chart here for net product revenue, comparing my net revenue for actuals versus your last year versus your red line here in the AOP. Can also have scorecards here, just a variety of different types of widgets that are available for you to choose from to create via a drag and drop functionality. Select the type of widget and then drop in your accounts you actually want to see or your KPIs. Hopping through a few of these gray tabs in the top section, these are our perspectives within the company summary. You can have as many of these perspectives or as many dashboards with perspectives, totally custom build them around that data, again, that we can bring into the system, and then give other users based on security rights to come into the system and view these on data that they are responsible for. So perhaps you have sales leaders within your organization, you want to create those really custom widgets for those sales managers to be able to come in here, drill down, and view their KPIs based on their login credentials and the security that we set up. Up in the top blue ribbon here are my dimensions. In my example, I have time, level, and currency. Unlimited number of dimensions. I just have 3 here right now in my example. Level is just an adaptive term. All it really means is your organizational hierarchy. So however that is organized for you today is what the structure will look like for you. Since we are that admin user here right now, I can easily toggle between my different departments or areas within my business. Right now, I just pivoted down to see what is all going on in my Canada operations. I'm in the Canadian dollar. Easily, we can pivot this over into our USD currency. So if you are have different currencies, Adaptive can take care of that for you. We have a currency table conversion behind the scenes that does that conversion for you. So again, very interactive. Dynamic, they change, they're not static pictures. You can even use the individual widgets, and a simple click within any of these widgets will open up your dimensions that you as the business can decide that is important to you and that you want to do your planning on, and can drill down, ask the questions, and find out more and more information. In my example here, on the $8.5 million, I'm interested to understand, well, which products are the most sold out of the 8.5. Looks like here it's product A1 followed by product A2 and so on. You can keep going, keep asking those questions, be it by customer, by channel, by the different stores that you may have, by different service types that you have. Again, that's where the customization comes in during implementation, to really sit down with you and understanding what are the dimensions that are important to you that you want to do your planning on. Again, we can keep going, keep using those. Or we can also go into this Explore data, which is the Cell Explorer of Adaptive, super powerful as it allows you to really drill down to that bottom level of how we actually calculate that 329,000. Scrolling through to the bottom here a little bit, we can also see the formula that's being used to calculate the data point, as well as this hyperlinked sheet where we're actually doing that planning for that 329,000. So now I can analyze this by all of its dimensions and attributes, the volume, price, perhaps if there was a discount, and how we arrive at that net revenue. So we'll be taking a deep dive into revenue planning, but the highlight here, really anyone within the organization, if you're an executive or an analyst, can use these dashboards, drill through to bottom level, self-serve, easy to use, and on the fly find answers to questions very quickly without having to wait to be able to make those critical business decisions very quickly. Now, just a couple more things here to mention while we're on dashboard's top right-hand corner. At any point in time, you can take these into presentation mode, live interact with them in your leadership meetings. You also have the ability to schedule snapshot of any of these perspectives or dashboards to anyone within your organization on a scheduled basis, on a frequency of your choosing. They will receive an email with a link to download these or log in, and based on their login credentials, they will see data again that they're responsible for. So with that, let's dive into our next section from our agenda. We'll go behind the scenes and actually set us up with a scenario, with a new scenario, and then we'll take a deep dive into planning. So with that, let's go behind the scenes as that admin user. And our consultants here, while this is pulling up here at eCapital Advisors, will make sure that you're fully enabled by the end of the project when we're done, that you're fully running through this. It's a fully finance-owned solution. Like I said, I've used it before in my past analyst role once, and I was up and running within a few weeks with a little bit of training. So we will make sure that you're fully enabled to come in here and navigate through this system. So as I'm pulling up my versions, on my left-hand side, I have a folder structure available to myself that I can use to organize all of my different scenarios and versions that I'm spinning up. I have my actuals version, I have my top-down versions, and I have a folder structure again that I'm using to keep myself organized. I have a working budget. This is my baseline budget I have put together here for 2021, and I'm going to create a copy of our baseline budget. And let's walk through a new scenario where we're going to adjust price, adjust volume for our products, and perhaps even hire a new employee. So on the right-hand side here, as I took that carbon copy, you can really name it whatever you want. You can give it a short name, you can give it a description. This may help if you ever find yourself in spinning up a lot of different scenarios of a baseline budget or a forecast, kind of make some changes on certain variables or drivers, and then kind of go back to your baseline and kind of help you with the different variables that you are changing. You can lock versions, locked and loaded. You don't want anyone to make changes once you're completely final. You can always lock them. You can also adjust the view for other users. So even another admin user within the organization, you can hide the view of that specific scenario that you're spinning up. So where I think this comes in very useful is if you're ever doing a confidential version, be it an acquisition you may be considering, or you're doing something around workforce planning, you want to spin up that scenario, or perhaps you're thinking of adding a new store, or whatever that scenario may be, you can spin them up, hide them. Once you're done, lock them, make them visible to other users. And then in the options box here, how far back you want to go in history and how far out into the future, and as well as setting up your rolling forecast, just selecting the date from a drop down. And then last but not least, we are taking that carbon copy of that baseline working budget. And upon save, I'm going to be placing it right here underneath that working budget. And we will be ready to go in a few seconds as it takes that copying. So anything, any custom created reports, formulas, anything available in that working budget has now been copied over and is ready to go for us to use in this what if scenario. So now that we have set ourselves up with that what if scenario, let's dive into planning. So planning in Adaptive is done in the area of sheets and assumptions. Assumptions are basically sheets as well, where you can hold those kind of global drivers to help you in doing your detailed modeling within sheets. Reports and dashboards, these two together kind of make up the output of your planning. Now, if I pull over here on my sheets, I have a handful of sheets here pinned on my ribbon. Workday Adaptive Planning does come with an out-of-the-box P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, a workforce, and a CapEx, but they will all get fully customized to how you view your financials and your chart of accounts. All these additional sheets that you see here on my screen are just sheets that I'm using to do more detailed planning. You can have as many of these as you need to really get granular, be it in your revenue planning, in your expense planning, Any vendor type of planning, again, any type of planning you're doing today in the world of Excel can all be created here by using these sheets. So I'm going to get us started here on a P&L. And while we're here, let's open up our revenue sheet and as well as our services. So as my example of my P&L here pulls up, top right-hand corner, we are in that working budget. Let's pivot over to our what ifs. I spun up that scenario. Immediately, it's available to us to select from. And from our hierarchy here, we are at our total company aggregated, consolidated up that you can easily pivot down to any other departments within your organization. So just wanted to highlight that it's always available to you here in the top right-hand corner. Now on this P&L on my left-hand side, this is where my revenue streams are coming in. I have revenue, I have product revenue in my model. I have some services revenue, and I'm modeling both product revenue and services revenue on two separate sheets, just because they have unique planning needs, if you will. And then we're picking them up from those individual sheets and connecting them into this P&L. A COGS that also comes from those detailed sheets. And then we're starting here in row 40 with all of our SG&A accounts, all the way down to our net income, down to your EBITDA. Again, this is where the customization will come into place. This is just an example of what my P&L looks like here. So if we scroll up to the top, let's take a look at an example of how am I doing how am I doing revenue planning? Two examples I kind of want to walk through with you on this detailed revenue planning sheet, top right-hand corner. We'll do a quick pivot, and anytime you're making any adjustments in Adaptive, you just have to be at a bottom level. So I'm going to get situated and then talk about the sheet for a minute, and then we'll make some adjustments. So this is one of the types of sheets we have in Adaptive. We call this a cube sheet, where it gives us really flexibility to use dimensions and attributes to do your planning and get really as detailed as you need. In my example here, we're looking right now at product A1. So this could be your SKU levels if you do your planning down to your SKU levels, or if you're doing it perhaps at a more aggregate level. Think of this as you all the way down to your SKUs if you need to do the planning at that detailed level. We're looking at customer 8 here in this example. This could be by channel. Really, you could have as many of these drop-down menus that you see here in my screen as you need to really get to that intersection of planning we're looking for. And we are at Sales North right now. So on this cube sheet for my sales planning, I have my volume, I have price that gets us to gross revenue, perhaps a discount, net revenue, and then all of our cost that we're modeling on the sheet as well. Gross profit, perhaps we want to hold some goals on the sheet as well. So let's make some changes. White open input cell here. We're looking at 145 units of product 8.1 that customer 8 is buying in Adaptive. It's very easy to come into an individual cell, make an adjustments. Let's say we're going to hover around 250. That's what we're kind of predicting. Copy forward to the end. Now we're rolling up to that 3,000 at the full year. Now, let's say in this specific scenario that we're looking at, we actually have been asked to make a volume increase, not just only for product A1, but touch all of our products. So if you can imagine having hundreds of SKUs or even 10 different SKUs, you can easily pivot your sheet. So what I just did, I grabbed my volume and I pivoted down or pivoted to the top. So now we're looking at our units at the top section across all of our SKUs. And in the scenario, we're rounding up to 16,098. Let's say we have been asked to round up to 20,000. We can break that back proportionally or evenly. It's going to spread that difference back, keep that original value, and round us up to that 20,000. And anytime we make that change, it turns blue. And upon save is when it turns black. That's when you have committed to that new change. So with the click of one button, we have made one change across all of our different SKUs by just simply pivoting. So very flexible sheets, I know that's difficult to do in the world of Excel, to pivot your columns and your rows, make your adjustments, spreading them back. It's all done really with one click within Adaptive. The next change I like to make is price. In row 3, we're looking at $96 for product A1. We can tell from our formula ribbon that this is coming from our assumption sheet or driver sheet. It's a gray cell with a little blue triangle. We can't make the change here on the sheet. We have to go to the underlying sheet to make the change. There are always 2 ways in Adaptive to get to the underlying data to make the change. It's always your right-click Cell Explorer, or myself personally, I always like to go from my menu and get into my sheet. So flexible of how you actually want to use your sheets and how to get to different places. So we are in that what if scenario on this driver sheet. Here's where I'm holding price per unit. There's my $96 across all of my different SKUs. And in this scenario, let's assume we were all asked to make that volume change, and we're asked to make change for price. We're going to be positive. Prices are going to increase. You can make a change by a value or by a percent. Let's see, our prices are going to increase 20%. And let's save this change as well. And while I'm on this driver sheet, I do want to kind of scroll through real quick with you to just give you, again, the art of the possible of the different types of drivers I have. I have my material costs. I make a change here for the cost around materials. In real time, you'll see the impact on your detailed revenue planning sheet as well. Labor cost, some overhead costs I'm holding, different freight costs. So as you're thinking of your business today and the different drivers you're having to manage, to do your revenue planning, that's where these driver sheets come in play, where we hold those drivers. You make the change in one place on your driver sheet to be able to see that impact for revenue all the way up aggregated to your P&L. So let's pivot back to that detailed revenue planning sheet. There's my $96. A quick refresh is going to real time give us that new updated price. Your gross revenue has been recalculated, your net revenue all in real time and aggregated up to your P&L. So the second example, I kind of want to walk through real quick and still stay on revenue for just another minute or two, is a different sheet that I have for services revenue. So again, I'm doing still revenue planning. It's just another sheet where I'm using columns instead of different dimensions to use as my drivers to do services revenue planning. So in this example here, I have my different levels. I have my customers, my different product or services. Perhaps you want to have a comment column, a start date or an end date if you're doing planning around different projects that have kind of those start date, end dates, or perhaps you have some milestones. If you're reaching milestone X, Y, and Z, your revenue recognition is going to follow accordingly with those drivers. So as you're inputting into a sheet like this, as an example for around services planning, this we're using these drivers to behind the scenes to shift that services revenue into your P&L that you saw right here when we first started for services revenue around existing contracts or new contracts. So lots of flexibility of how we can use these sheets in Adaptive to do that planning and really get granular. So the next item on my agenda here to pivot a little bit from revenue planning is to shift over into expense planning. So I have a detailed expense sheet as well, where I'm doing that planning. Now, as this pulls up here, in the top blue ribbon here, we're able to adjust our display options. I'm just getting myself situated here to my Sales North region. Top blue ribbon, you can always have your quarters on your sheet if you like to see your quarters on the sheet. Myself personally, when I'm looking at a 12-month period, I don't like to see my quarters, but you can easily, with the click of a button, bring them in. You can also bring additional versions in on the sheet where you'll have, let's say you bring in a different version, you'll have January show up once or twice, depending on how many versions you bring in. And then spark lines, some really love them, some not so much. I'm going to bring them in so just so you can see what they look like. So now on this detailed expense sheet, we have our SG&A accounts. We have in orange here our spark lines, in green fonted data. This is data that comes from your ERP, locked and loaded. It's in green, cannot be changed. And then starting in January here, this is where our forecast or your budget, or in our case here, our what if scenario starts. From top to bottom, salary and wages here, another gray cell with a little blue triangle. It comes from our workforce planning sheet. So to make a change here, we would have to navigate down to our detail sheet. Commission, bonus, health plan, health benefits, retirement, payroll, and so on. In row 17 here for training, looks like in that baseline budget, we took 12,000, divided it by 12 months and popped it right in here. We can actually use these spark lines to make a change. So if you are a very visual user, you can drag and drop these, easy to use as you're making adjustments. You can actually see within the data points here in row 17, you can actually see the change made. So just another way of making these adjustments. Or we can simply use a capture method. Let's say we're going to take training is going to change a salary and wages change. So as we're making detailed changes in that workforce plan, this is going to follow along by 3%. And we're going to copy that all the way to the end. So now we've written a formula. We have a little blue triangle that indicates you have a formula in that cell, and we can also see it from the top ribbon here in our formula bar. You can also see the business language that we use in our formulas that really helps anyone who perhaps drills down to this individual cell and can actually use that business language and read it to understand what that formula is doing. So right here on this telephone account in row 25, again, we can see it in the formula bar, or a right click, go into our formula wizard. That is going to open up that formula assistant that you can use Excel syntax. You'll be running with some basic Excel knowledge, and I know all of you here on the call have more than basic Excel knowledge. We'll be running with this formula wizard before you know it. Super simple formula I've written here. I'm taking my personnel FTEs for my sales north region, multiplying it by an assumption I'm holding on that driver sheet. But it's this little pound sign that's really powerful in our formula wizard that you can use. Again, to get that business language in there, you can imagine your long what if statements you're writing today. Again, that executive drilling into the cell can really just use that business language to understand what the formula is doing instead of trying to follow all your links like you may be doing today in Excel. One last change I'd like to make here on row 27 here for office supplies. Let's say in this what if scenario or your rolling forecast we're going to add some splits. So a split is like adding an additional row in Excel. So I know it has happened to the best of us where you add a row, and we're gonna, in this example, buy some nice printers. It's happened to the best of us. I know it has happened to me. You add a row in Excel, you think everything is subtotaling, and perhaps it is not picking up. So Adaptive takes that human error out for you, where with confidence you can add as many splits as you need for a forecasting perspective. Let's add $2,000 in here, and we're going to add a note. Extra printers. Very collaborative as well as you're leaving those notes behind. We'll save these changes. Let's say I'm going out on vacation. I'm trying to put in my last forecast, and my manager comes in here, drills down, sees this, can see the note, can drill down on it into our cell Explorer via audit trail. We can see who made the change, when the change was made. On the left-hand side, and kind of leaves that timestamp behind where it takes that guesswork out of who made the change, when the change was made, and why the change was made. Okay, let's go into pivoting over into workforce. Looking at time here, I am going to speed us up just a little bit. So workforce planning, detailed sheet where we are doing our planning around our employees. So this is data that would come from your payroll system. Can be automated, can be a flat file load. However we get that into Adaptive, there are different options to bring in your data into a sheet like this to plan for all of your current existing employees. And then of course, any new hires you may have. Again, we're not what if, we're looking at our Sales North region. In my example, I have name, title, residency for tax. This is just a drop-down menu where based on where these employees are located, it drives the FICA, FUTA, or any other costs that are different from state to state to the P&L. I have a start date, end date, your hourly employees, health plan, benefits. Again, another drop down, the costs for plan 1, 2, and 3 are all held on a driver sheet. By what I'm selecting here on this sheet, behind the scenes, we're using logic to look at that driver sheet. If we're selecting plan 2, the cost will be X, Y, or Z. Pay raise, pay dates, pay raise dates, commission targets, your bonuses. Again, this is where customization will come into place to during your project to sit down with you and understand what is it that you need modeled out around workforce. Moving over here all the way to the right, you also have the ability to allocate employees. For example, William Clark here is listed 3 times. He is an account executive supporting the Sales North and Sales South region. So any revenue he's generating or expenses will get split to the P&L on this 60-40 split. So while we are here, let's take a quick copy of a row. You can simply add a row, delete rows, split them. So again, ease of use. We're going to have another new hire. We'll just say it's going to be in New York. For sake of simplicity, we'll keep it the same. Let's see, we're almost at the end of December. So let's say December 13, which we already have passed, but that's okay. We'll stick with that. And let's give this new person a nice salary. And we're happy with everything the way it looks like. And we're going to save it. So now that we have another new hire starting on December 13, you can at any point in time go into that row details and really understand of what is everything that's being calculated and that gets pushed to the P&L. So imagine sending a sheet like this through your workflow to another budget inputter who has to come in and kind of review their workforce plan or their marketing plan, whatever it may be. They don't have to worry about the actual salary calculations or any other benefit calculations. All they have to put in is the start date, the end dates, how many new hires they're going to have, especially for those non-finance users who perhaps don't want to actually manage what those calculations look like. So that is all done behind the scenes. And then the drivers are managed by our admin users. So we've made enough changes. We've made some revenue changes, some expense changes. We hired a new employee. Now let's take a look at what all of this does to our financials. I'm going to pivot over into a variance report I have prepared for us to kind of walk through. I have our FY 2020 actuals. I have my working budget on here, my budget past 1, and I have these pinned to my parameters where I can, from a drop-down menu, easily select and change my report. Now you can have as many, let's pivot this to our what if. You can have as many columns as you like. If you do have 10 different scenarios of a version, you want to line them all up next to each other and have your variance column fully flexible to do, drag and drop them into your report behind the scenes and you'll see them. Like in my example, I have 2 variance columns. I have my dollars, percent, an impact column here as well. Looks like I don't have any flags, but the impact column here. It's just a conditional formatting where I'm using a threshold and let the system kind of tell me where the hot buttons are by flagging items red or green. But we made some changes. We spun up that what if scenario and immediately I can see the impact to my income statement, my balance sheet, cash flow, all on one page, one view. Financial metrics, perhaps bring in some operational metrics, your same store sales, your head count, any other metrics you may be thinking of, you could bring into a report like this. So if I wouldn't have talked as long as I did, we would have made it here a lot faster. but very interactive, easy to use. Spin up those scenarios, make your adjustment, come to a report like this, and immediately you'll see your impact. Interactive slice and dice capability. They're not static. Again, if you send this out and share it with other users, even with just their viewing license, they'll be able to come in here, drill down. Perhaps we're slicing this to all of our different cost centers. Now I've pivoted my revenue account to the top, and immediately we can see we made the change together here for our sales north, and there's my little green flag. So very interactive. And as you hover over these data points, we won't go into this right now, but that Cell Explorer is available again to keep drilling, keep asking those questions and finding out more and more information. Top right-hand corner, export into Excel PDF, directly print from here, go into edit mode. Happy to go into a follow-up demo and go behind the scenes and spin one up with you, take a snapshot, do a save as. If you put it into your personal report folder, you're going to be the only one who can see it, or into shared report folder, shared with a group of users, or cherry pick your users who you want to be able to come in here and see these reports. So this report is on the web. It's the second main bucket of reporting where I see users doing a lot of their ad hoc reporting on the web. And then we also have the Office Connect. So the Office Connect, being a past user of Adaptive, I look at the Office Connect also as your ad hoc reporting wherever you're kind of more comfortable with as you get to use Adaptive. But the power of the Office Connect here is especially for your board style reports. So if you have packages that you're putting together today, be it in Excel or Word or even PowerPoint, Office Connect can automate that process completely for you. Again, you get those pixel perfect reports using that Excel functionality, but it's at one source of truth. Your data comes from one place, one database. Up in the top ribbon, once you download that Office Connect, it will show up here in your ribbon via your linked cells. So this is the data all coming out of Adaptive. In blue here, these are the data points. Green are the labels also coming out of Adaptive. Now, if I quickly bring in that task pane here, that is going to open up your structure. This will be your general ledger accounts, any of your accounts or structure, again, that we create for you. Now, to show you how easy these are, again, to use, taxes and benefits in my Excel report here on this formatted tab are not connected because they're not highlighted in blue. We'll go into our structure, find those accounts. We have a search bar available as well. Drag and drop, establish the connection, and we're connected now. Upon refresh, it's going to look at Adaptive, bring in those data points, and everything here in column B has, let me hide that task pane so you can see it better on your end. Everything here in column B, this is all Excel. Column O, Q, all Excel functionality, Excel formulas, formatting, but the data is all coming out of Adaptive. If I can ask you to keep your eyes on column I, K, and M, we're looking at March. Earlier for our demo here, I went behind the scenes and brought in fresh actuals for the month of April. So assume you have just closed the books and it is, well, today's Thursday, but let's say it's Friday afternoon. You've just closed the books and you need to have your board deck ready to go by Monday morning. You can easily set this up where you can roll that forward. It takes care of rolling the time periods over because I have mine set up as relative. And this time around, we're gonna update all of our tabs. So it's gonna go through my about 12 tabs, roll my books forward. Now this could really be 100 tabs long, depending on how large your board decks are today. So it's all flexible, up to you of how much you want to build out here via the Office Connect. So columns I through M change to April. Column D here changed from October to November. I have a new 6-month rolling. P&L here across revenue, operating expenses. I also have a metrics tab. Perhaps you want to do some charts. Again, the charts here is using Excel, but the data is out of Adaptive. Departmental P&L, sales, your revenue by your different products, balance sheet, cash flow. Again, I won't hop through all of these just to give you a little bit of a taste of what is all possible to build out here. Now, if you have a board deck like this today, currently existing, once your structure is established, we download your Office Connect. We can use your current existing reports. We do not have to start from scratch. But again, that is something we can discuss with you during your project. So integrates with PowerPoint. I know I mentioned that, and Word. So I call this our easy button here within the PowerPoint. You just do a refresh on your PowerPoint. It looks back at your Excel workbook and picks up your refreshed data, where now you are given back a lot of time to focus more on the storytelling, the commentary of what is actually going on in the business, and not worrying about ticking and tying your columns, making sure every column is rolled forward. So it gives you a lot of time back, a lot of weekends. I always like to think of that, especially on Friday afternoons when the books get closed. So here in slide 8, we can still see the highlight in our Excel. And a refresh is going to pick up that updated book. So I think I went over just a little bit here on time, so I apologize, but I hope I didn't lose anyone or bore anyone, but happy to take any questions. And I have Mitch here with me too, and it looks like there were some questions. So I'll hand it back over to Steve.
Perfect, Josiah. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending. We did have a couple of questions come through. So I did want to just ask, and Mitch, maybe you can take this one, but just in general, what does an implementation process look like?
Yeah, absolutely. From an implementation perspective, usually the average duration of our projects, they do vary depending on the approach we take. We have the options of doing a co-build approach of eCapital and a potential customer being able to do a 70%, 30% build. We can also have eCapital doing the build too, but really our approach really is after we kick off the project, our goal then is really to transition into integration and working through the different modules. The common ones we always start with usually is around financials, getting you really up and running so that you can already start using it for your financial reporting. And then really diving into any of the detailed modules like workforce, CapEx, revenue, etc.
Perfect. That answers. There was a second question that where do you see the quickest wins? So obviously, as Mitch mentioned, right, your base financials, and then it is kind of that workforce planning, the revenue planning. CapEx is typically a pretty quick hit, but as Josiah spent that last piece really around that Office Connect, that board report, those month-end, quarter-end, year-end decks, that's where we really see a lot of time back in your pocket with one source of the truth, where you're going through and really just navigating to what happened and really just narrating that versus having to copy and paste all of your different graphs and charts into a PowerPoint. But that was it for questions. So I did want to, I'll give it one more second in case anyone has anything else. But again, really appreciate everyone joining today. Hopefully you were able to see, just kind of scratch the surface what Workday Adaptive Planning can do. And we will be following up and hopefully be able to get on the calendar for an introduction, learn more about your organization, and set you up for a more tailored demo. Thanks.